seconds there. Hi, and welcome to Where Are They Now? I am Heather Lindstedt, your host, class of 1985, and I'm joined today by Dan Hart, the class of 1999, and the athletic director at Chelmsford High. Welcome, and thank you for joining me on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. We'll get to that whole real job thing that you have, but when you were a student and going through Chelmsford High, where were you as far as sports and activities and those kind of things that really helped you develop some of your goals and your future ideas?
Yeah, absolutely. Part of the reason why I wanted to work at Chelmsford High School was because of the experience I had when I was at Chelmsford High School. I played basketball 4 years. Was lucky to play on some really good basketball teams my last 2 years, but was there. I think I played on the varsity. It was 3 years. I was on the varsity team, but had 2 good years, 2 strong teams, and had a lot of fun doing that. Met good people. My coaches were, majorly influential in my life. Coach Mickle, Coach O'Keefe, Mike O'Keefe, who's there right now, Mike Wynn, who was there, just Dave Whitney, just really good people who really pushed us and gave us an opportunity that I'm still close with today. Met some great teammates. And then on the other side of things, I was actually involved in TV class, TV studio. Ann O'Brien was someone who, was just a great teacher. When you're in high school and you're trying to find that thing that you like or that you do, that was that class that we went to. And she was like, all right, you guys should try this, and you guys would be good at this. Just try this. And she would put us in all these kind of just situations to try things. And a whole group of us just fell in love with with the TV aspect. So, we did news shows there, and, we're always doing games and do some stuff in this studio. So we had a lot of fun. And that was, that's, kind of my fondest memories of high school. I just had a blast in there and on the basketball court.
It is really amazing. We've had strong athletics forever. Mm-hmm. But I think what has been instilled, and maybe you can share some of it, is I think maybe you were pushed by the word potential. Mm-hmm. When you're a student at Chelmsford High School, it just seems that everybody uses that word, which means you haven't really done anything yet. Yeah. So share a moment, though, where you were playing basketball or moving up to the varsity, where you just felt like somebody just gave you that nudge of this is what you can be really good at. Dan.
You know what? It's funny. It kind of came a little bit. I mean, now we were a little bit back. We had a group of guys, I came up with a really strong group of athletic kids. Matt Skomas, who's one of the better athletes, Jesse Santos, Adam McCusker, Dan Craig, who's in the NBA coaching right now, and other guys, Nick Zeminski, I'll say, all these really good athletes that I was with. And we all played basketball all the way throughout, from the old school Chelmsford Youth Summer Basketball Camp where we all used to start, 400 kids would pack into the high school gym, all the way up. And, we played and challenged ourselves and played everywhere. But I remember when I got here, just little things from coaches that, less of almost the potential thing, but more of hey, this is what you need to do to get to kind of that next level. And you guys should be trying to beat big teams, and you should challenge yourselves, and it shouldn't be easy. And, I remember, my, junior year, we had a breakthrough year. We had a really good team. And then my senior year, we had the best player was Matt Skomas. The year before, he's, one of the better players around, but he had graduated. And I know that in the beginning of the season, we were supposed to do really well, and we struggled in the beginning. Guys were hurt, and we just didn't play well. And midway through the year, we had played Central Catholic at home, I remember, after we had lost a couple games. And Central Catholic had a player named Scott Hazelton, who's one of the best players who's ever been in Massachusetts. And they just beat everybody. Number 1 in New England, number 1 in, state and everything. And, before that game, I remember Mike O'Keefe was, there and telling everybody, this is a really good team, but you guys should beat them, and this is why. And, you got to believe in yourself, and you guys got to go out there, and you got to make them be look, they're the ones who should have the pressure on them right now. And just kind of gave us that, you shouldn't just be here. You guys should go try to beat them. And we actually, crazy, we had a guy hit a half court. I think Scott Meyer hit a half court shot at the buzzer at halftime. Danny Craig hit one in regulation, a random when the clock expired, and I got lucky and hit one at the end of an overtime period. It's either an overtime or the fourth. But we had all these crazy things that happened, but we beat this amazing team, and it was that point that we're then, but probably throughout for everything, where you're always hey, if you you always have a chance, right? You
Right.
put the work in, you believe in yourself, it can happen. They say, what's the old USA hockey coach was, 99 times out of 100 they might beat us, but not today.
Right.
And kind of since then, I've always just kind of had that instilled with everything we do. Like, yeah, it might be hard, and we probably maybe shouldn't be able to do it, but if we work really hard, we could. And I took that. That's from that moment, just kind of I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to work with kids. I wanted to try to inspire, like my coaches did. I really wanted to coach.
Yeah.
And that's something I got into. I think kind of springboarded from that moment.
Right. So you did win both championships, though.
Won NBC championships.
Yeah.
Yes. Now it's funny. People, I was saying before we get in here, like. People think we won like a state championship because they remember that we beat a Central Catholic team. That didn't happen, but if they want to think that, that's great. But we did win. We won 2 Merrimack Valley championships, and like I said, I had some outstanding teammates and coaches and really good teams, and guys that I still talk to this day.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, that's what it's all about, right?
Yep.
At Chelmsford is, I don't think even if you didn't stay in Chelmsford,
Right.
your roots are always there.
Yeah.
Although you had quite the roots anyways, right? With
Yeah.
grandparents and those kind of things. Talk about because there's always good stories that you can remember from your grandparents and stuff, like what Chelmsford meant to them or in Chelmsford High.
Yeah, my grandfather was class of 1925. I think we saw today, which was pretty funny because I think it's his younger brother graduated the same year that he did. I saw that on that, so I don't know what went on there, but maybe they.
Well,
could
I
think that.
have a grandmother that
Yeah.
graduated in around that class, and
Yeah.
you used to be able to move up.
Yeah,
And she used to say, she was smarter than my grandfather.
Right.
She got to skip a grade, but yes.
Yeah, my grandfather. It's funny. I found out when he had, when he was much older, and when I was, I think like middle school when he passed away. I kind of found out more of a lot of things that he did in town. Was involved in like town government and in building some things. Was very involved with St. Mary's Church and did a lot of stuff like that, and school committees and selectmen and all that stuff. And he worked under John Kennedy and was on that his food and agricultural or dairy thing, something like that. So all these kind of cool things. But one thing I do remember is he did, him and my father, they loved the town. They were here and they got involved, and I think they always had positive things to say about it. I think one funny thing is my dad forever just always resented. They sent him to Keith Academy, and all he wanted to do was go to Chelmsford High School. So he was the biggest supporter of Chelmsford High School there is because of how much he didn't like Keith Academy as well. But
So he had expectations of you being successful at Chelmsford High.
I think so, yeah. Don't waste this opportunity, right? But my dad, the same thing. He was a selectman here forever, was always involved in town things, and then, was a farmer. They owned, farms all throughout, and Drum Hill, which is now, it's 3 times. So now I always still call it the courthouse, but that's like way old now, right? But they had Hart farms over there. And the roots have always been here, and they've always cared about it. And, I'm the same way. This has been a great place. I care about the town. Just like we're here, right? We've been here. It's special to us, and we want it to stay that way and keep getting better.
So what did you think about when you had to leave Chelmsford High School? And you went off to UMass Dartmouth and stuff like that. But was it, I want to stay in and around the area, or what was that kind of like?
It's funny. At the time, I had no idea, right? Like I went to, speaking to my dad, he's, kind of we joked about it, but I went to UMass Dartmouth kind of sight unseen. I got recruited there to play basketball, and I, went down there, and one of my teammates that an AAU teammate that I played was going there too, and I'm like, all right, we're gonna go. And I really didn't check it out, so I didn't know really what was going on. And in school, I was like a good student, but I don't think I knew how to really be a student yet. So I went down there to play basketball. I did not do well at first academically. I didn't know how to balance it. And in my own mind, it was like, oh, well, I'm going to go somewhere else to do it. My dad's like, where are you going to go? There's nowhere for you to go. So you either go back there. And at the time I was working on the roofs, he's like, oh, you're going to go work on the roofs. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go try to go back there. So I actually stopped playing basketball. I didn't even go off with the team at that point and figured I got to try to buckle down academically. And I finally got it. But during that time, what I did down there was I actually probably played just as much basketball. I was playing at the Y, playing intramurals, met some amazing friends from all sorts of backgrounds from all over the place. And down there became like an intramural director and was running like flag football leagues and basketball leagues. And so from, all that time, I kind of figured out a little bit more about myself, like how to be a student and how to juggle things and, how to work with things. And then what I liked, I was using my spare time to be an intramural director and go play and do stuff and work with kids. And I think that's where I didn't know fully what I wanted to do yet, but I knew that I wanted to go and give back and work in that field. And when I was getting out of school, Steve Murray, who's the principal now, someone that I had. He was one of my basketball camp coaches, and someone that I always kept track of. He said, "Hey, he's like, at some point, he's like, you should think about getting involved in the schools." And a job had opened up over at McCarthy, and I put in for it and got it, and I've been there since. And been in the school since. I've been out of McCarthy for a while, but it just kind of pulled me in. It was just kind of natural. I didn't plan on being here. I didn't plan on not being here, but I was just here, and
So who do you think inspired you the most, or was it just kind of an innate thing that you wanted to work with students? I know you hit a little bit about coaches, but was there a teacher at some point that really said, like, the way they were handling working with students that inspired you, or where do you think? Or it could just be you thought this is what I wanted to do.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think everybody's shaped by something, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, I had such great, people in my life, adults in my life at the time. I mean, Charlie Mickle is one of the best people you ever meet. I mean,
Which is funny, you oversee him now.
I do, yeah. And just a good guy for kids, and he did a lot for me. Michael Keefe, the same way, both in the building during the day, and then with basketball stuff. And kind of when I was wrapping up school as well, he had reached out to me and said, "Hey, you're home. You got to come coach with me." He's like, and pushed me to do that end. And Jack Fletcher's always been a huge supporter of mine, and I had him in school, and he was someone I would always sit at the end of his desk and just listen. And he's got amazing stories and all sorts of stuff. And but even to this day, I still talk to him maybe every other day. But he was someone that inspired me. And Ann O'Brien, the deans, I was really close with the deans in high school. I didn't get in trouble, but I was doing stuff and helping out, and they were involved in stuff, and they.
Did you have a favorite dean? I mean, were you part of a house that you?
I was Whittier House, so I was Mr.
Okay.
Battle, and we always used to kind of joke around, throw it in. But I was, I got to work as we got out with Mr. Doherty, with Jeff Doherty. I still see today, who's just tops, and then Mr. Thomas is just a great guy. It's funny.
And they all coached.
They all coached, and Mr. Thomas. It's funny when you talk about people that inspire you to work with kids. I still remember. We had homeroom period, back then. They don't have it now, but different in the plus blocks. But we have a homeroom period. And I remember, something. I don't remember what game it was or whatever, but, that I had done something or maybe done something well. And I had, a note, that was a handwritten note from Mr. Thomas, who, wasn't my dean, that just to, say, "Oh, it was a great job. It was great to see you. Way to represent the school, yada, yada, yada. Proud of you," whatever. And, people are like, "Oh, that might not be a big deal." But when you figure, I'm not even in his house. He's got 500-something students already that he has to worry about. And I know I'm not the only kid that he writes that to. He takes the time to write that for everybody in the school. I just think that, that made me feel a certain way.
Right.
And I just think that alone is oh, wow, the effect that somebody can have on that. They don't even really know, but it really does. I think that's that stuff is what really made this special to me,
Yeah. So then you came back, though, to start coaching and those kind of things. And what's the driving force or your mantra for giving back and being in Chelmsford?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is, I love seeing people be successful. I think people would tell you if they put with me, I'm a good teammate. I am very focused on the goal. I want to win, but I want us all to kind of do that thing together, and anything I can do to help, I'll do. And I think, getting into coaching, I think that was, my strong point, right? I could always kind of see the game a little bit, see it out, and I always thought of ways that I could help people and how they helped me. I also think that I wanted to coach how I wanted to be coached,
Correct.
And the things that I would see. So my mantra would just be I think we, when I had teams, I think we outworked people. We worked really hard. Yeah. We were focused, and we wanted our kids to be good people and good teammates, right? We don't win every game, but we want to be good people and get better. And I think those type of things, those type of life lessons are why I really like coaching. So I think that would be just kind of my mantra. It sounds, corny and cliche, but it's really just to get better every day, right? To be the best version of yourself.
Right. But you did bring up, when I was asking you about the championships, you didn't really talk about your playing career. You talked about every other person that was much better basketball player than you.
Yeah, they were right? I play with all good people, right? And if they weren't good, I wouldn't have been good, So.
Right. But you still must have been inspiring as a captain, though, too.
Yeah, I guess so, right? I think people know that I worked hard and, I was a good teammate.
Right.
And when, we needed a big shot, I could make a big shot. When we needed something, I would do that. I'm not I'm not the world's best basketball player that's ever been there, but I was a pretty good player.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate. I like playing with other pretty good players. I wouldn't have been happy if I was on a team that lost and I was scoring 30 points a game. That wouldn't be fun to me. I don't care what it would be as long as we would try to win. And if we did win, and that's fulfilling to me.
So coming back to the school system, though,
Yep.
And you've mentioned kind of the legacy,
Mm-hmm.
but how was it when you had to step in to being the athletic director after, we've had some great athletic
Yeah.
directors.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
And what
it was
did you
good.
steal from them, do you think?
Oh, everything. I steal everything. I always steal. That's when I coach. I steal everything from everybody else that of things that work and things don't. But it's funny. Like that was a job that I had wanted, just not that early. I figured I'd be coaching for a little while, and but I've always sat at the desk of Jack. I always helped, with stuff when Scotty was there and things that he needed. And I was always just kind of the person that would I'd help, or I want to be interested in how things ran. When I came here, I started a basketball business, right? Of, a thing called Lion League Basketball. And my thing at the time was like, all right, we're a 3-sport town. And basketball is very much like outside here. You want to go play off-season basketball, you get out of here. Well, how can I bring all those good instructional talent to here and make it easier? And ran a business that started with 35 kids, and we went over to 1,000 people. So I had that business background of it, which is an important part of being an athletic director, of what things cost and how to run it. Scheduling has always been something that I've had in my head, and I think the most important thing is going out and getting good people that work well with kids, and not being afraid to admit that you don't know. I don't know everything, and I lean on people and I lean on coaches to, that I can kind of learn things from them, and I go ask other people for their opinions and do research on stuff, and then, I get behind them and I support people. And I think, being an athletic director, everybody thinks it's all sports and stuff, and like we were just talking before, it's more of buses and scheduling and budgeting and all that stuff. So it's busy and it's interesting, but I love it. It is good.
Yeah. What do you think from back in the day, and I won't give you my personal answer, but from students when you played to students now, do you think there's really a difference?
I mean, there's always a difference, right? And just like there was a difference when I played to the people, 10 years before me. I think one of the differences with kids now, and I think it's more like overall sport, in that adults have kind of ruined sports for kids in a way, especially at that youth level, where everyone's going out of here and playing club this and club that, and they got to get this and they got to do that, and they kind of lose sight on what it's about, right? Your kids having fun, building up a group, having everybody together, learning how to be a good teammate, learning how to succeed, learning how to fail, right? Putting all those things together to make a well-rounded kid, right? You're going to fail. That's what's just going to happen in sports. And I think we do shield, and I'll probably be there too because I have little kids, but we shield our kids from failing athletically so much, right? We go find the right team. We go do all that stuff. And I think kids right now are, I think they could stand to be, challenged a little bit more in that way and let them know, hey, just go and try. If you fail, it's okay, right? It's okay. I think they're worried about that as much. But I think that all this stuff that's happened in the last 2 years has kind of messed with kids a little bit in that way. So I don't want to say kids aren't resilient, because I really think they are. I think they're the most resilient. And I learned so much from the kids, in my, role as right? A lot of the stuff is, you're there to supervise the kids, and you got to be someone that tells the kids no, a lot of the times too. But we're also there to support the kids, find out what works. And I think the bigger difference from kids now is, I think before coaches would, the coach would say something, right? And that's what it is, and that's, what it would be. And you go home and you tell your parents about it and say, oh, okay. And they might, gripe about it or whatever, and they go back and they do it because that's what the coach says. And now I think people want more of a well, we should kind of be consulted in that way. And I find on teams like that, it doesn't really work out. The old school way still works with a lot of that stuff.
Right. And I think, though, if you bring the kids in, and
course.
again, you've always had great coaches that
Yep.
that bring that kind of mindset.
Yep.
That, what, we're listening.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you do want the coach to make that final decision in going with that. What have you think that you've put your stamp on, or have you not put your stamp on it yet, of maybe something that had to change just because you just went through COVID and all of that, but one thing, because you don't like to talk about yourself, but that you think you could pat yourself on the back and say, you know what, things have.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of like small things, and one has been like facilities. I think, I saw this thing one time, this guy talking about like branding a facility, and as you know, before at Chelmsford, everybody had a different color maroon, right? Whether it be red, something else. Our walls were yellow, our walls were green, our walls whatever, and we've kind of switched to like now when you come to a Chelmsford facility, you're at Chelmsford High School. Everything's maroon, white, or black, right?
Yeah.
We don't want anything else in there. And I think that looks sharp, and I think we have kind of an identity. I think all of our teams, like uniform-wise, same thing. We're all in that same color maroon. We're all wearing the same logos, the same that way. And I think that kind of makes a big difference in, pride in what we have. We have an old building now, right? We have, all the other schools have brand new ones and we don't, but it's still our place, all right? We take pride in that place and how it looks. I think we've made it look nicer. The one thing that I have done that I think has been a nice addition is that senior awards at the end of the year. The senior awards used to kind of just be given out at like a big spring sports award thing. At the end, it was kind of just something that was added into the end. And we've changed and done like a dinner for those kids that are, those award winners. And they get nominated by the coaches, like those senior awards. There's like 6 like major senior awards. But the coaches get up, one coach gets up and speaks about that kid. And in a way that, it's funny, it's athletic awards, but they don't really talk about athletics at all, right? It's about that kid. So those kids get out of there, and their parents, when they leave there, know like, wow, there was quite a connection, between the coaches, and they really know my kids. Like I think the misconception is that we think of just kids as just as the athletes, right? And as for coaching forever, it's so much more than that, right? We got to know like, hey, he wasn't bad today just because he wanted to be bad today. He was bad today because he had this going on. He failed the test. His girlfriend broke up with him. There's all these little things, and I think that that's probably one of my favorite things. It's a good thing at the end of the year. It's a positive way to go out. The kids really, care. My coaches really take pride in being there and presenting, and they have a lot of, respect and adoration for the kids. And, they're very thankful that they get to work with those kids.
And it's got to be the hardest thing, though, as the athletic director, when it comes down to watching those kids for 4 years.
Yeah.
And really giving out awards that it could go to so many.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, last year, our female class of athletes was one of like the best female classes that we've had. We had this group of, and there's a ton of them, right? But we especially had this group of like 5 or 6 girls that were 4-year, 3-sport, starter, all conference, MVP kids and everything. And it was, but that was kind of actually the beauty of it too. When we got into those awards, people really forget about who got what award, and they just listen to the person talk, and they're like, wow, that's a great connection, and we're glad we're all here, and did it together. So, but it is tough. Yeah.
But when you think about that too, and you hear the stories about the young ladies and young boys, everybody, you just said it, and parents don't see it, but nobody talked about, I bet you, the wins and the losses.
Yeah, no. not even brought up, right?
And I don't even think the students realize that they're going off to college and they have no idea if they won a championship or how many games they
right. And that's the thing, like no one really remembers. If you win something, you'll remember it, right, a little bit, but you don't really remember your exact wins and losses. You don't remember all this. You remember how your teammates treated you, the fun time, the bus rides, right, the locker rooms, the that feeling, the jitters before a big game, the team dinners, all of that stuff, right? That's like the fun stuff. The games are awesome and you're in them and that's the thing, but it's all the other things around you that kind of build the whole experience.
Yeah. Well, you brought it up, right? Mm-hmm. You guys won the state championship in '99.
No, that's just keep telling everybody. Just tell everybody that. Absolutely.
But that's the kind of the aura of what a team can do to the town of Chelmsford, though, too.
Right.
And you know what I mean? Like, you guys are held on a higher pedestal than
yeah, like,
people even knew.
But I say to everybody, right? And I know that, I understand why people do what they're going to do, right? Sports has changed. That post-grad year is really gone. So there's kids that will, go to a prep school or whatever to get to the next level. And there's nothing like playing with your friends in front of your town. Right. And, being with your team, with those guys that you grew up with, and you don't get that back. Right. And so I understand it. I would never tell anybody not to take an opportunity, but I couldn't imagine, us, the group of guys I had doing it any other way, of, being there together, working towards something all the way throughout. That's not easy. Right. That's a goal that you have. And, even us, like we fell short ultimately of the goals that we had, but we gave it everything we had. Right. And because of that, we're close friends, like that still get together, and we're not with each other all the time, but when we get together, we're like family members. It's
Right.
fun.
The fight song. Do you still sing the fight song?
We don't. The
When-
band plays it,
Yeah.
but we don't really sing it. And that, I would say that'd be a change in kids now too. I don't even
Yeah.
think kids would even
They
think
would-
about it.
They wouldn't know it?
No. They wouldn't know it. I think they somewhat do because they play it, but I don't think you can catch the kids singing it anymore. I think they're just different that way. I know our football coach, George, really wants to bring it back. He wants to bring back something. I told him he can lead the charge on that. I'm not singing in front of everybody.
You're not singing?
I'm not inspiring anybody with this voice. So
You're not?
It's going to happen. I don't think so. But
That couldn't be the one thing.
Yeah.
Talk about, though, and I'm sure it's the same, but is working with people, though, that coached you. And how has that been, or was it a easy transition? Because I think what you said, Chelmsford High is kind of a big family.
yeah, it's both, right? Like I don't know, like I always had that feeling too that if I'm going to do a job, I got to do the job, right? So I think that people that have worked, with me, for me, whatever that will all tell you the same thing, that I'm respectful to everybody. I'm going to listen to what everybody is. I'm going to do what I can to give them the best experience and support them.
Yeah.
And that doesn't change if, I'm older than you or younger than you or any of that stuff, right? It's all going to be the same, and I still want to help and support and have those conversations. And things different. Maybe to them, but it's really not to me, because we've been, a lot of these people being in the building and coaching and being outside here, we're all really, we've gone from that level of like they were my people to being peers.
Yeah.
And I think, I'm always respectful to all those people. So we've always had good relationships. I think I have fairly good relationships with the majority of my coaches.
Well, I can tell you, obviously I got to coach at Chelmsford on Data too, and we've already had a few of your other coaches here. I know the wrestling coach was on with us, and
Okay.
wow, congratulations to your wrestling team this year.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
things are continuing.
Yeah.
But I want to wish you all the best, continuing success. Obviously, I'm always a lion and always watching. So thank you so much for joining me today on the show, and again, continue best of luck with the Lions Pride.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan.